Good evening, everyone. You're in the spotlight with Brian Gardner for this Tuesday, September the 5th, 2017. Good to have you all here for our first of two shows this week. That's right, we are back on our normal schedule here for at least now. There might be some changes coming up, but we won't be talking about those tonight or this week for that matter. We're going to save those for next week. I know people have been kind of chomping at the bit here to see what's going to be going on and what we're going to be doing. But this is not the week for it. We have a lot of stuff. It's a big week on the show. We have a lot of stuff going on. So, I thought it might be better to just leave it until next week and get through this week and then kind of get into all that next week. This is kind of, again, this is kind of that week, that I like to call, I've said it before at this show in particular, but this whole week really is more like our homecoming week after the summer. People are in and out on vacation, all that kind of stuff. So, it becomes one of these things where, like, once you hit the end of June, people are kind of, even end of May, more or less, people start checking out, going on vacations. Routine is kind of disrupted for a good 2 or 3 month period. And then you get to September and everybody kind of comes back together and, you know, um, kind of gets back into the swing of things, school, college, all that kind of stuff. So, I like to call this the homecoming show, and really the homecoming week. I just think that's kind of always what it's been since we've been doing the show. So, for those of you that have been kind of away or on summer vacation, or maybe you haven't been checking out the show, welcome back. It's nice to have you all back, and hope you had a good summer. For some places, it was not a good summer. Weather was an issue for a lot of people, and as we start here, we said this last week, but it bears repeating because it's very important. We continue to send our thoughts and prayers out to everybody that was impacted by Hurricane Harvey, to all those that lost their lives. Our thoughts, our condolences, our prayers go out to their loved ones, and may all those that passed rest in peace. And again, our thoughts and prayers are going out to everybody impacted by Hurricane Harvey. And if you have, and again, I said this last week, and again bears repeating. Please, if you haven't donated, whether it's volunteering or donating your time, donating any money you can, please do. They need it's going to cost a lot of money to rebuild and kind of get through this situation. So please, if you can help, please do. There's various charities. You can find them. Go American Red Cross, go wherever you have to go. But if you can help out, please do. It's a very, very good thing to do if you can. So, very important that we note that. And of course, there's another hurricane coming up the coast later this week that looks like it's going to impact Florida sometime this weekend. So, our thoughts and prayers are going to be going out to Florida too. And hopefully this doesn't end up and really anybody that's in the path of this storm. I want to just highlight Florida. I know Puerto Rico might get hit by, a lot of places might get hit by. Anybody that's in the path of that storm, let's hope and pray that it's not going to be as bad as predicted, and let's hope and pray that everybody gets through it okay. And it's these storms, I'm telling you, we've had in the last 15 years, how many superstorms have we had? It's been crazy. So again, our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody impacted by Hurricane Harvey and all those that could end up being impacted by Hurricane Irma over the next week. Our thoughts and prayers are going to be with you all as you go through this. It's again a horrible situation. To get one of these storms, let alone a second storm that looks like it's going to be a pretty bad one. It's just horrible. So I wanted to make sure that we mentioned that here on the show. And again, if you can help out in any way, whether it's volunteering or donating, please do, because all those trying to help those in need all the help they can get. So, all right. So as we get going here, as always, want to remind you all the ways which you can interact and contribute to our show. Have your voice heard by emailing us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Please remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411. For anything you tweet regarding our show. And of course, you can find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and then make sure you like our page once you're on it or once you find it. Really quickly, it came to my I honestly can't remember. A couple of you said you thought I did it. Some of you didn't think I did. it came to my attention that last week when we only had one show last week, and it was on Tuesday, obviously. It came to my attention that I might not have acknowledged that last week was the deadline for the In the Spotlight TV Awards winning ballots, as well as the live award nomination submissions. Some of you claimed that I mentioned it. Some of you claimed that I didn't. So I don't know if I did or not. When we do one show a week, it all kind of all blurs together. So if I didn't, I apologize. Thankfully, everybody, we had a ton of live award submissions, so I don't think we really left anybody out. It's hard to tell because we don't do a count on that. But as far as the winning ballots go, everybody that had a ballot submitted it. So I don't think we had any issues there. But I just wanted to note that. So my apologies if I did not mention it. But thankfully, it looks like everybody remembered. At least I think they did. Nobody complained about, oh, I didn't. Nobody complained really about any deadlines or anything. So I don't think it's too much of an issue. But I feel like I should mention that. So, and then, oh, of course, you all know that this Thursday, a huge show for us, the 7th annual In the Spotlight TV Awards will take place this Thursday live here on YouTube Live at 9:00 p.m. Eastern Time. As always, we'll start off by giving you the nominees for the live voted awards. And then we'll give you about an hour to vote on those as we announce the winners of the In the Spotlight TV Awards. They usually move pretty quickly. So unlike the film awards, but still a very important show, a very big show for us. So please do tune in on Thursday for what should be a big show, as again, homecoming week here on the show. All right. So now, as I mentioned earlier as well, let me see. Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, I've been teasing some announcements for the show. We're going to leave those till next week. We just did not have the time. So we'll get into those next Tuesday. Next Tuesday, we'll have more of a normal type. I mean, we have 2 shows this week, but we'll have like a normal type week. We'll do sports wrestling on Tuesday, entertainment Thursday, and we'll have some time to kind of do some things here. Now, the TV awards, of course, Thursday, next Tuesday. Sports and wrestling. Next Thursday, we will do our summer box office wrap-up. So you can look forward to that. Our summer box office wrap-up will be next Thursday. And you know what that is. I talk about all the big headlines from the summer and kind of go over everything, the themes, all the big stuff that happened. Now, a lot of people have asked me about the NFL, our football show, our gridiron grind, if you will, and whether it's going to be back this year. Now, obviously, this is week 1 of the NFL season. So we are not – I'm going to be honest with you right now. I'm not saying the football show is gone. There will not be one this week, at least not at this point. I know that sounds kind of weird, but I'm still working on a couple of the things that I'm thinking about doing as far as what we're doing in the future with the show. So what's going to happen here tonight, in the interest of, not trying to screw over our football fans, okay? We're not going to do a full preview tonight. We're not going to do that. We don't have the time. I will give you my picks of the week as far as week 1 goes, okay? Just so that I give you my picks, and then we have that. As for college football, you all know my feelings on that. Okay, yes, there was a big game on Saturday night, and it was a good game. It was a good game. Give them credit for that. And I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to do a college basketball. Everybody's trying to get in and get people invested early. I don't think it's a bad thing. But you all know my feelings on college football. I've talked about it more in the last couple of years with the playoffs than I probably ever have on this show. We will talk about it. It will happen. But usually you got to get into it. It takes a few weeks. The NFL, it's not the same as the NFL. You're interested in the NFL right out of the gate, okay? College is a little different. And I know they might have hooked some people early on Saturday with the Alabama-Florida State thing, but, and I know the Howard beating UNLV was a big deal. It's the biggest upset in terms of the spread in history. That one got some people interested too. But other than that, again, it's early. Florida, Michigan, it's early, okay? It's early. There were some good games, yes. You give them credit. It's good that college football had some good games in week 1. But right now, we're going to leave the college football stuff out of it for right now. Obviously, when we do, if we do a football show, we'll bring it all into the fold. But for right now, no. And I'll address the football situation. Like I said, I'll give you picks tonight. But as far as anything else goes, we'll leave it alone. We will do a football preview show, and you all know my feelings. I like to wait, especially with pro sports. I like to wait a couple weeks, to see the teams, because you can look on paper, you can see how they look in camp and over the course of the preseason. It does not in any way, shape, or form give you any ideas until you see these teams get on the field in an actual game, a real game. Okay, and I know, and we talked about this before. Oftentimes, you see teams start off. Sometimes teams start off 0-3. They can end up in the Super Bowl. So early season doesn't even give you a full idea, but at least it gives you something. So, again, don't fret. Doesn't mean we're not going to do anything. It just means that we're not doing anything this week. So just be aware of that. Tonight we got some sports stuff to get to. We got a couple MLB things to get to. A little NBA story to get to. Yeah, a little NBA story to get to. And then we'll jump into some wrestling. We also have some entertainment. We got a very quick box office beat, even though now this is the first box office beat in a few weeks that there's actually some things to talk about. But we won't spend too much time on it because it's going to be a pretty easy one to do. I'm sure Mike will have some TV highlights, and that will be our show tonight. So we don't have a lot tonight, but we have enough, and we'll burn through it. So I gave you the lay of the land for this week. I told you what's going to be coming up next week. So that's a real insight into what's going to be going on. As far as what goes on beyond that, wait till next week and I'll give you more insight into that. All right. So with that being said, I see that Mike's got his graphic here, so I'm assuming he's here. So Mike, you are in the spotlight.
I've been waiting for a very long time. You just keep talking, just keep talking.
I had a lot to say. There's a lot of stuff to get to. Sometimes that happens.
I guess. Oh, I don't know. You've been pretty quiet over the last week with me. Oh, if you have a lot to say.
Okay, sometimes things get busy. I had 2 jobs. I had a lot of stuff going on. I apologize. Don't feel slighted.
That's okay.
Can't help it.
I feel slighted. I eternally feel slighted, Brian. What can I say? Slighted by all of the I don't know. I'm trying to think of a word here. It's just not coming to me. Maybe because I took a fat nap earlier. Well, it was after work. So I was tired.
Right.
Tired. I don't know. But I feel eternally slighted by the cold-heartedness.
Well, I apologize. I do apologize.
It's not the most cold-hearted thing done by somebody in your household recently, so and it's not you. But I digress. Before we keep throwing the shade. Say, at least it's not as cold-hearted as the Boston Red Sox stealing some signs from the Yankees.
Yeah. What is it with these New England teams?
I don't know.
Seriously.
What is it with these New England teams and just unable to hide their cheating?
Well, we'll talk about that in a few minutes because that's a story that broke a couple hours ago, and it's interesting, and I might take a position on it that people might be surprised by, but we'll see.
So I will say the position that needs to be taken on it is about the Red Sox weak defense to the allegations.
Yeah.
My God, the Red Sox showing up in grade school name calling. They got caught doing. They're like, well, they did it first.
I'm just gonna say this, okay? Before and we'll obviously talk about more later. Okay, I guess the complaint was filed on July 18th, from what I understand, and then MLB had to investigate and all that stuff. All right, if you remember, folks, where the Red Sox record was versus obviously the Yankees won the season series. But if you remember what the Red Sox record versus the Yankees was around that time, I think it was like right after the All-Star break. I mean, the Yankees split with them that weekend. It was. I mean, if they were stealing signs, it still wasn't helping them.
It helped them quite a bit, though.
I mean, it made it
Yeah,
better.
help it quite a bit.
But you know, I mean, if you would think it would have slightly better results, but nonetheless,
I mean, to be fair, I mean they did. There's enough to where they're still first place in the division. So
well, for now. But yeah,
yeah,
we'll talk about it. It's it's something. It's an interesting thing for me because I'm telling you right now, folks, everybody does it. They all do it. They all do it. Even the Yankees have done it. It's something, Joe Girardi's right. It's something that's been going on, gosh, decades. It's like a baseball, it's an unspoken baseball tradition. Okay? It happens. It's just that some teams are better and most teams don't use electronics to do it. That's the difference, okay? That's the difference in this whole thing is that they use electronics to do it and they got caught. That's the issue here. But we'll talk about it in a few moments. I want to do the entertainment stuff first because I want to get out of the way because there's a couple of things that people brought up in that sign thing that I want to get into. So, all right, so let's talk about this box office, which Hollywood should thank its lucky stars. I don't know if there was some, maybe there was some rainy weather in some parts. Obviously, in some parts there was. But I don't know if people just finally got to the movies because the last couple of weeks have been very bad. It wasn't a great weekend. Whether you look at the 3 day or 4 days, we're not going to go crazy about 3 days and 4 days over Labor Day. We haven't done it in years. It's not necessary. Okay, it's no longer a big weekend at the movies. But if you look at this, maybe in some big markets, people couldn't be outdoors because of the weather, and maybe the weather wasn't as warm in some spots, and that's what led people into the movies. Either way, if you look at the 4 day numbers, which I'm going to look at because I think Labor Day could be a pretty big movie day. You had an okay turnout. I mean, given what the last 2 weeks have been, you had an okay turnout. Hitman's Bodyguard over the 4 days, 13.2 million. Annabelle Creation, 9.1 million. The Weinstein Company had a movie that expanded series called Wind River, which came in third with 7.8. Leap came in with 6.2. Dunkirk in fifth with 5.5 million. Logan Lucky in sixth with 5.4 million. And yet Spider-Man come in with 4.7 million in seventh. All these movies pretty much jumped, in percentages. Now, if you go to 3 days, they all kind of, obviously they dropped off when compared to the previous weekend. But a lot of which goes to show you a lot of people went and saw movies on Labor Day because the jumps from Sunday to Monday were pretty good. Hitman's Bodyguard had 10.5 million on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and went up to 13 on Monday. It actually went up from its previous weekend, 2.7%, which is good. A lot of these movies did. Wind River, Leap, Logan Lucky, Dunkirk, Spider-Man, Despicable Me 3, all had big jumps. Wonder Woman 2, which got re-released, all had big jumps. And that happens over the course, over Labor Day weekend sometimes. People catch up on some movies that have been out. Overall, though, I thought it was, given the circumstances, given the lack of momentum going into the weekend, it could have been worse. It ended up being okay. In fact, in some ways, it was up versus the previous week, which is good. It gives the box office a little bit to go on going into what is now the fall movie season, even though it's not officially fall yet, starting this week. A couple interesting storylines here outside the ones I mentioned. Hitman's Bodyguard, #1 for the third weekend in a row. Close Encounters of the Third Kind was re-released for its 40th anniversary, 1.7 million, which isn't too bad. Marvel's Inhumans, which was released in IMAX theaters, which was supposed to be a 2-week engagement. I thought it was a 1-day thing. I don't know how I missed that, but they condensed it to one, probably because of the reviews. But it made 1.5 million, which for a TV show that was only being shown in IMAX, that's pretty good. It's not bad. It's pretty good. So, I don't know what else they would have expected, especially over the Labor Day weekend. But to me, that's pretty good. And I didn't think it needed an extra week. In fact, I didn't think it needed anything but the weekend. I thought a weekend would have been good enough. But, you know, some people like to point out they thought maybe if Wonder Woman wasn't released that it could have made more. I doubt it. You know, I really do. I don't think there wasn't. I think that the market for Inhumans was very, very limited. So I don't see it. I don't think it would have made a difference if Wonder Woman wasn't re-released or not, to be honest. People are going to go see Wonder Woman again if they wanted to anyway. So, but anyway, that's really all you can mention. It could have been a Labor Day weekend. Could have been worse. It could have been worse. That's all. That's really the headline. It was and it was slightly better than the previous week. So that's something. And now as we look to the start of the fall movie season, this Friday we have 2 major releases and 1 release in a limited fashion. The limited release is 9/11, a drama from Atlas Distribution, which will be opening in, I believe, if I can get the theater count, 400 theaters. Charlie Sheen, Whoopi Goldberg, Jacqueline Bisset all star in this film. It's a drama. It's R-rated. Again, with only 400 theaters. You know, don't really expect too much. Maybe 2 million. If maybe a little bit more. It'll expand its release over the next couple of weeks. I would think maybe a little bit more. I don't know how much it's going to expand its release to, but you know, it'll expand and it'll maybe stay in that $2-3 million range for a while, because I don't think it's going to get a huge release of like 3,000 theaters or anything. So with that in mind, I don't think it can do huge numbers, but you know, enough people will want to see it that I think it can get to 2, maybe even 3 million. The 2 biggest releases are Home Again and It, both on very different ends of the spectrum. Home Again, a romantic comedy from Open Road Films, no theater count as of yet. Stars Reese Witherspoon, Nate Wolff, Michael Sheen, Candice Bergen, and Lake Bell. Again, PG-13. Haven't been too many of these kind of movies lately, so they'll probably find somewhat of an audience. How big of an audience, I don't know. Again, you know, there might be other things going on for some people. I don't know. This is kind of like a transitional weekend where things start to get better at the box office, but don't get hugely better yet. So, I mean, I could see it pulling in 13, 14, 15 million. That seems about all I can see it doing. I mean, maybe it surprises and it gets the female audience, it gets it to 20, but I can't see it doing much more than that. The movie I think is going to dominate and take #1 easy, especially given where everything else is right now as far as placement and gross, is It, a horror film from Warner Brothers. New Line, opening in over 4,000 theaters, R-rated, a huge theater count for an R-rated film, which goes to show you the Stephen King factor. The factors in anticipation here. And plus, there's no other big movies out. This is the only big movie out, and everything else has been out for so long, it's not going to really factor into things. So, a fairly unknown cast, unless you want to count Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things. Really, all it is Bill Skarsgård. But you know, again, this movie is being sold on the Stephen King factor, the remake factor, the fact they're apparently trying to go full on, really gritty and terrifying with this. It's got some momentum. Again, though, you worry about. I think they would have been wise to maybe hold this to October, because I think it could have done well against competition. I really do. It's a known property, so I think it could have done well. I think maybe they would have been better off waiting on this a little bit, and you know, coming right out of summer. I don't know. I think it's going to hold it back a little bit, but I could still see this having enough power, even as an R-rated film, with the theater count especially, to get it to 35, 40 million. It might exceed that. I don't see it exceeding it by much, especially given it's September. But that's the power it could have. It's 35, 40 million. It's been very well promoted. So right now, the way I see it is #1, It, 35, 40 million. Second, I see Home Again, maybe 12, 13 million. And then you'll have pretty much everything else. Hitman's Bodyguard probably dropped considerably here because you know, it's again, it doesn't have the R-rated, you know, well, it's R-rated, and you know, I think a lot of its audience was going to cross over it anyway, so it coming out is going to drop off. So you probably look at that about maybe 7 million, the way it's been holding. Annabelle Creation will definitely drop to around 5 million. I think everything else will be under 5 million. Everything else is already close to 5 million or under already. So So you're probably looking at it, number 1, Home Again, 2, 13, 14 million, Hitman's Bodyguard 3, 7 million, and Annabelle Creation around 5, and everything else under 5 million. So very short and sweet. Mike, do you have anything you want to add?
No.
Okay. So that's this week. Next week, you have 3 new releases, all opening wide. So, but nothing that really, maybe one movie could do huge numbers, but we'll talk about that next week. And the week after should be the week that things fully kind of get going again at the box office with 2 major releases. So, but we'll talk about that in a few weeks. So that's the story at the box office for right now. And now I'm going to throw to Mike because I'm sure he has some TV highlights for you because I don't. Go ahead, Mike.
I don't have TV highlights. How embarrassing.
You don't?
What do I have? All right. I'm thinking. Because I haven't seen an awful lot of television lately. I've been pretty busy. I've caught up pretty much on The Daily Show. Trevor Noah had some pretty serious comments. He had some comments that got him a little bit of under a little bit of a heat. Itself was very good. So again, The Daily Show with Trevor Noah is worth your time. It's a pretty decent show.
Mm-hmm.
He's really coming into his own on the show. So it is worth your time and attention. I will say James Corden is fantastic, and you should be at least taping or DVRing with James Corden. He is fantastic. So I will recommend that. I will recommend The Late Show with James Corden. What else? I have an episode of Endeavor left. I have not seen it yet, but I'm looking forward to it. I'll probably see it at some point soon. A PBS show, so it's Endeavor this week. It's once again it's Endeavor. Let's go with I'm pretty caught up on The Sinner show again. Still, the mystery's kind of deepening. We've got a couple episodes left. Kind of curious how this one's going to end. We're really getting to the part where the stuff where she wants to forget, we're kind of getting into that really, really hardcore now. What happened to Detective Ambrose in his personal life, and it's kind of affecting him. It's good stuff. So I highly recommend The Sinner. I did see, because I had to help out. I did end up seeing most of another episode of Game of Thrones. I saw. I don't even reckon. I think it was one from the sea had the short haircut. I don't know what episode it was. The guy who's like a crappy Liev Schreiber was dragging 2 people, and they had, I guess one of them had poisoned Cersei's kid. That wasn't Joffrey.
Yep.
And it's like, pulled on your heartstrings right there. Cersei, such a bitch. And the Daenerys is like, I don't trust you, Jon Snow. And Jon Snow was like, am I a prisoner? And everyone's like, you're a prisoner for your character's lack of charisma, Jon Snow. Pete. The love of Pete.
Oh my god.
I don't know, man. Great interview.
No, is.
Don't get me wrong. Kit Harington, he's a great interview. He's got a natural charisma, but Jon Snow does not.
He got saddled with a horrible character. He really did.
Jon Snow wasn't the most popular. If he wasn't one of the 2 most popular characters in that show.
Yeah.
who are now related and are having sex.
What? Incest on Game of Thrones? How's that happen?
Everybody's related. Everybody's related. Who else? What else is? What's Tyrion? Tyrion Lannister, still the best character of the bunch. Like,
yeah, of course.
Daenerys, maybe you shouldn't act like a total bitch. She's like, oh, okay, here you go, Jon Snow. And Jon Snow's like, okay, thanks. This is the most energetic partnership ever. There's just like, I have dragons. And they're like, that's great. Well, if you're riding a dragon, all it takes is one arrow and you're fucked. So, I don't know. It's like Cersei was a bitch. Tyrion talked. Jon Snow just smoldered at the screen like, oh, I don't have any charisma in this character, but I look good. So, yeah. There's just like, dragons. Horse dragons. And I'm like, God, why do people like this fucking show? I've seen 2 episodes of Game of Thrones, and I'm wholeheartedly say I am doubly not impressed. That's like, if I want to see that medieval fantasy kind of thing, I will see something quality. Like Lord of the Rings.
It's a show that, well, I mean, I don't want to get into it.
Brian, let me throw back here. Or Rodman Dune and the Flaming Sword of Fire.
Oh, that's a good choice. It's a good choice.
That's a great choice. I think you can still buy it.
I missed that show.
On Amazon. I'm starring Matt Lucas.
So much wasted potential. Oh, God. Such a good show.
Oh. Matt Lucas and Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
Such a good show.
Such a good show. Oh gosh, God before its time, believe me.
Well, you know what? It's something I might have to own someday.
Yeah, it really is, and that's a show that if anybody wanted to pick up, and I mean that's a show that with the right marketing and the right support could have really done some things. I think. I really do. I think if it wasn't kind of just tossed out there and kind of fed to the wolves a little bit, which it kind of was, you know, I think it would have been fine. It would have done well, but whatever. But you know what? I'm gonna say this because I think that there's a lot of people, and I don't want to get into a big discussion of it. Something that could be had at another time, but. There's a lot of people right now that think that the writing is very uneven on Game of Thrones, that they're rushing, which they are, One of the things that has always, and I do think, that there's been episodes that are really, really good. And then there's episodes where I kind of look at it and go, wow, just either get on with it or whatever. The pacing on the show is it's very frustrating, and not frustrating in a way that, oh, wow, they're making you wait for a payoff and you can't stand it. Like, you know what I mean? I'm on the other side, I can't stand it. But in the fact that sometimes they go quick and they rush through things. And then sometimes they go so infuriatingly slow. And then they're like realizing, wait, we have to get to this now. Okay. We're going to go through like 4 or 5 levels of story in 3 episodes. Just to get to that point, because we realized we took too long. It's like the long-term vision, they don't outline how they're going to get to these places. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't, you think about the best shows on television. They know 3 or 4 years in advance how everything's going to click. Even if they don't get if they don't get renewed, then they kind of condense their plans, obviously. But most shows will be like, I know where I want to go in the next 3 or 4 years, and this is how we're going to get there, and this is how we're going to pace these episodes as we build up to that. And, you progress it, and I almost think that because they have such a big budget, because they have an hour pretty much where they don't have commercial interruption, and then the way that they block the show in a way, which is that you get these, you stay on one story for like 15 minutes straight in an episode, which I don't necessarily always like. I do like to kind of dance around a little bit with the stories. I think that it kind of gets in their head a little bit. It makes them think that they might have more time or that they can play around a little too much. Nonetheless, they're not the best showrunners, okay? DB and David are not the best showrunners. To me, they lack a lot of finesse. And they're very lucky that they have a very good budget, and they're very lucky they have some really good directors that sometimes turn what they're given into something magical. That's pretty much, they're very lucky. But nonetheless, I'm a fan of the show. I like the show. I like a lot of the actors on the show. I call it like I see it, but I do not think it's consistently at a high level like some people. And this goes back, I know some people go, oh, seasons 1 through 4 were some of the best in television. No. This goes back to when it first started. The show has always been kind of uneven. Always. Always. Each season has had 2 or 3 episodes which have been brilliant. And then there's episodes where you go, oh my God, like, come on. So it's a show of extremes, in my opinion. But, you know. All right, let's move on. That's for Game of Thrones diatribe there. We move on now. We're going to jump to sports for a few minutes here. There's a real entertainment story that somebody wants us to bring up because I think it's big enough. Lucasfilm has let another director go. Obviously, we heard over the summer, a big story was that Phil Lord and Christopher Miller were fired off the Han Solo movie. Ron Howard stepped in on that one. Now, today comes word that Colin Trevorrow, who directed Jurassic World, has been fired from Star Wars Episode 9, which will be the last in this current trilogy. Apparently, creative differences for Kathleen Kennedy. In case you haven't been following, over the summer, a lot of people there's been a lot of rumors that Colin was going to be taken off the project. They've had script issues. They didn't like the people he was bringing in to write the script. His movie Book of Henry got panned back in early June. So there was a lot of people that were speculating this would happen, and now it has. Now, we don't know who's up for the project, but Mike, you'll like this part. There are rumors. This is speculation right now. Speculation, okay? There are rumors that Christopher Nolan and Patty Jenkins have been approached. Now, Patty Jenkins has not officially been signed on to Wonder Woman 2 yet.
For some stupid reason.
So, look, I don't think Christopher Nolan's going to do this because I'm not saying he would never do a Star Wars movie. I think it'd be more likely he does one of the, like, anthology kind of movies so he can do something self-contained. I don't think he'd want to just be part of a trilogy unless he can do the whole trilogy. Like, maybe if they do another trilogy and he can do all 3, then maybe I could see him doing it. But I can't see him doing, like, the 3rd part in a trilogy. I can't see him doing that. So, but Patty, this would be a tremendous opportunity for her to direct a Star Wars movie, especially given what they're trying to do with Rey. And can you imagine if they hire her for Star Wars and she can't do Wonder Woman 2?
DC would be fucked.
And if they did now? Again, this is not confirmed, but if they did approach her and they gave her an offer, would you take it?
Yeah, probably if I were a director.
Yeah, I would.
If DC has nobody to blame but themselves.
Christopher Nolan's is particular, but Patty, I think, would take it if they approached her.
Mm-hmm.
I think that now, ultimately, I don't think it's going to happen. I get the feeling they'll either keep. I know they wanted to have different directors on each one. I think they wanted different perspectives. I think they like that. Ultimately, I think they'll either keep Rian Johnson, who's doing Last Jedi, or they'll go back to JJ for the last one. I think it'll be one or the other. I really think that they'll, because at least they know they can work with those two, and they have a May 2019 release date here to make. So, which they have time for, but still, I tend to think they'll go with somebody they know they can work with, because from what I've been reading today, Kathleen Kennedy tried everything in her power to make this work, because she didn't want to do another change here. So, two directors changes for these Star Wars movies in such a short period of time, it doesn't look good. But, it is what it is. But I just thought that was funny, that the rumblings for Christopher Nolan and Patty Jenkins. If that's not a sign to DC that and Warner Bros., you got to sign her. I mean, what else is going to scare you into re-signing her at this point? Like, what needs to be done here? This is ridiculous at this point, especially since I think they announced the One Woman 2 release day. At what point are you going to get her under contract so you can start getting the ball rolling here? I don't get it, but anyway, but that was a big piece of, that was some big news today. And I like Colin. Colin's a good director. I think with the right projects, he's fine. Jurassic World was the right project. But I did have my concerns with Star Wars. I thought he'd do an okay job, but for the last film in this current trilogy, I didn't know if he was the right fit. But, I guess I don't have to worry about that now. All right. So let's jump into the sports world here, and the Red Sox situation. As we talked about at the beginning. Again, the Yankees filed a formal complaint on July 18th. It's been proven that the Red Sox were using Apple Watches to steal signs. Now, I guess among those mentioned in this were Dustin Pedroia, which kind of surprised me a little bit. Now, let me. Now, Rob Manfred, the commissioner, said that he didn't think this was a big deal. Dave Dombrowski, didn't seem enamored with the idea that the Yankees did this. Then there's been the claim that the Yankees do it too, and they, have that use footage from the Yes Network and in a way to steal signs. I said this at the beginning of the show. Everybody steals signs. They're going to say they don't, but they do. It's been done for decades, okay? It's been done for decades. Other teams have been caught doing it. This is the first time that I think it's being in a way like an Apple Watch. Okay, this is the first time we get something like this. Now, for those that are not clear, what advantage does this give you? Well, it can tell you pitches being thrown. It can tell you when a base runner is going to go. It can tell you it can tell you different things. It gives you some insight into the game. It's like if in NFL when you're stealing plays. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. Okay, it's considered bad form. It's considered it's funny to me when a team gets caught doing it, and it's funny to me because they all know they do it, and they always act outraged when they're caught. Like, oh gosh, how can you do that? That's cheating, and it is. Okay, I'm not saying it isn't, but it makes me laugh because it's an unspoken action that has been taking place in baseball for so long that acting so outraged about it is silly to me. It's silly to me. I mean, this ain't steroids here, okay? This is a completely different animal. This is something that gives you an edge, which, is good. Players are going to be doing this at the end of time, always trying to get an edge, trying to get an advantage. They're always going to do that. But it's something that is really, in my mind, trivial, okay? Because as a baseball player, as a baseball manager, as a baseball coach, that teams do it. And this is why, since the beginning of when people started realizing it was being done, you're told to cycle through your signs, or if you suspect it's going on, change your signs. Now, before somebody says, "Well, wait a minute, if they're taking them on the Apple Watch, if you change your signs, eventually you're going to figure it out and they're going to steal them again." If you do it enough times, like if you change them every inning, and kind of try to confuse them, you'll be fine. Okay, I mean, this shouldn't be anything new. Now, I get why the Yankees reported it. I think it's fine to report it. All right, because to me, this is a little bit of more of a new phenomenon using something like an Apple Watch to do it. I get why they reported it. It's not like the old-fashioned way of just stealing the signs by observing what's going on. So in that mind, I get it. So I'm not saying they were wrong to report it, but the outrage to me is hilarious because they all do it. Does that mean it's right? No, I'm not saying it's right. But I think the level of outrage is real silly. Now, what can be done about this? I've seen people saying they should vacate when they're not going to do any of that. All right, if anything, there'll be a fine. I don't even think it's going to be that. Manfred basically said as much today. He didn't act like it was a big deal. He just said, "Oh, we looked into it, and that's about it." You know, I know Joe Girardi mentioned, the idea that to avoid something like this, maybe the pitchers and catchers should use headsets. Or wires in their, like they do in other sports where they can kind of, or base runners can, or coaches can use these kind of things. I don't think it's a bad idea. You got to see if the players will be comfortable with wearing those under their helmet, or their hat, whatever. But I don't think it's a bad idea. It would avoid it, sure, but then, maybe we'd have a Spygate situation in our hands where somehow they'd intercept the communication or something, there's always going to be something. There's always going to be something. So, okay, and I mentioned this earlier. They were stealing signs. The complaint was filed on July 18th. It hasn't really helped them too much, has it? It helped maybe a little bit, but not as much as it probably should have. I've seen teams do that. Some teams in the past that got caught doing it, and they were blowing out a team because of it. They had a huge advantage in the game, and it was drastically impacting the game. Whereas in this situation, I don't think it had as much of an impact as it probably should have. So, it is what it is. I think people probably would expect me to be out like, "Oh, how can they do that?" No. It's to me, it's just that they got caught. I'm not going to go out and say don't get caught. You shouldn't. Should you do it? No, you shouldn't do it. Okay. It's bad. It is bad form, and when it comes out, it makes you look bad. But I'm not going to sit here and act out outrage like somebody else. All my other people are going, "Well, geez, they all do it." They all do it. Doesn't make it right. Means it should not be done. But to be so outraged that you want to file a protest with the league and vacate Wednesday, come on, folks. All right, fine them and let's move on with our lives. Okay. That's really all I can say on it. That's really all I can say on it. Mike, you have anything you want to add?
Well, I was kind of looking at Paul Manfred's response, and it's as spineless as you can get, really. Spineless, like invertebrates have more of a spine than this response. "We will conduct a thorough investigation of the charges on both sides. I want to do it quickly. I think it's important we get it resolved. The thing I could tell you about repercussions is that there was a violation on either side, and I'm not saying that there was, but to the extent there was a violation on either side, we are not 100% comfortable that it's not an ongoing issue. If that happened, it is no longer. I think it's important from an integrity perspective going forward. I don't want to punish anybody, but I take any issue that affects the play of the game on the field extremely seriously." Oh, It's like, Jesus, the two biggest teams in baseball have one ball each of this guy. The Yankees have a testicle and the Red Sox have a testicle. So it's like he doesn't have anywhere he can go. To your point, yes, call stealing happens. It's happened since the beginning of the game. Usually when it happened in the early 1900s, 1920s, usually they were baseball bats taken to pitchers' knees. We can't do that now. Because, laws, stuff. So they put in the rule, don't you steal signs. A rule that no team follows. But if you get caught doing it, you should have repercussions. That's just it. Yes, everybody does it, but yes, it is still against the rules. And if you get caught doing it, you should repercussions. Now, are the Red Sox going to vacate wins? No, they're not. Do the Red Sox need to improve their friggin' blame game status? Absolutely. The Yankees caught you guys using Apple Watches. But they used the Yes Network first. They did it first. We're only doing it because they did it first. It's like, God, come on. An organization of adults and not little bitches on the school ground. Okay? Yankees use the Yes Network? I don't know. Probably not. Probably not. However, the Red Sox got caught this time. Should they have a punishment? Yes, they should have a punishment. Are they going to vacate wins? Vacate wins. Unless it significantly impacted the game. A couple of weeks ago when I was at Yankee Stadium and suddenly they did great. But that wasn't their fault. That wasn't their fault. That was Todd Frazier's fault. It's Todd Frazier's fault. Let's be clear here. Anyways.
It was.
It was totally Todd Frazier. It was not. It was. I mean, it might have helped them a few times in the game, but let's be clear here. That was totally on Todd Frazier not being able to throw the goddamn ball to first base. Anyway. That being said, should they have a monetary fine? I would give them the fine just for their fucking blame game defense. Right, the $3 million fine for acting like little bitches. So, but should they get a fine? Absolutely. If you get caught stealing signs, you should have a penalty. No doubt about it.
I agree.
So the Red Sox were caught stealing signs. It should be a quick investigation. The Yankees literally handed them everything, and the Red Sox handed them nothing but excuses. I would say Point, New York. Boston, you still get to be in first place. Good for you. And, excuse me. That's it. All right, you still get to be in first place. Good for you. And signs anymore. We're watching you. Wink, wink. But yes, give us $10 million.
Yeah. All right. Okay. And, now things are getting rather heated with the Red Sox and Yankees, not just because of this scandal, but because the Red Sox have lost, I believe it's 5 of 6, and they're tied tonight in the bottom of the 9th inning with Toronto as the Yankee game started late due to a delay. Yankees are only 2.5 out with 25 games to play. Now, they do play more games, I think, than the Red Sox do at this point. I think 2 more. I think 1 more game or 2 more games. So even though they don't play each other again, they do. This is not by any means over. This AL East race is not over. And again, this is how things can change in baseball. A week ago, they were 5.5 out, and everybody was like, "Oh, go for the wild card." You can't. You never rule anything out. If you're within 5, I still think you have a chance until you get to like, if you're 5 out with 10 games left, then that's hard to do. But 5 out with 20 or so games left, that can be done. We've seen collapses before. So that AL East race has tightened. It's a 2.5 game lead for the Red Sox right now. As we go into the middle part of the first week of the last month of the season, Cleveland is gone in the Central, so that's not going to be a race right now. The Astros are gone in the West, so those 2 races are done. In fact, Houston has to start worrying about Cleveland catching them for the 1 seed. We all thought that was impossible that anybody would catch Houston. Cleveland has won 12 in a row. And they are 3 games back of the Astros for that 1 seed. So it's possible they could catch them. Although Houston looks like he's turned a corner, and Houston has acquired Justin Verlander in the last week. And we had some nice waiver deals late. We don't usually get that. But Detroit unloaded some talent late, including Justin Verlander, who got moved. That's a big piece to move. That's the guy that everybody thought Houston was going to get at the trade deadline. And they get him before the waiver deadline's done. And now, Houston, hey, if they can get Keuchel and McCullers right and get Verlander, they got themselves something special there. They really do. So, big deal there. That could end up being a big turning point for Houston, who has had a rough go the second half of the season with injuries and, the trade deadline not going the way they wanted to. That kind of, I think, hurt morale a little bit. And here's the thing about Houston that I think is just flat out odd. They're 41-31 at home, but they're 43-22 on the road. So don't think their home field means anything sometimes. Some teams just don't play as good at home. It's rare, but it happens. We're seeing a lot of teams play better on the road this year, which I think is interesting. In the National League, the Nationals have got the East locked up, no question about that. And the Dodgers obviously have the West locked up, even though Arizona has won 11 in a row. And Arizona has cemented themselves in the last 2 weeks as a playoff team. They have cemented themselves. I mean, they removed any doubt of making the playoffs. The Rockies have to be worried here, as they've seen their chances drop considerably over the last 2 weeks here, as Milwaukee has made a big push. The Cubs are only up 3 on Milwaukee, and I think you probably still feel pretty good about the Cubs. But nonetheless, but the Brewers are still there. 3 outs, not too bad. But in the wild card, they're only a game and a half back of Colorado. Right now, Arizona's gone. They're 6.5 up. That's a huge lead. I think Arizona's going to be fine now. And they'll probably end up hosting that wild card game. But you look at that second wild card spot, Colorado holds it right now by a game and a half. But after that, you got Cardinals at 3. Miami has dropped back, and I think they're falling off right now. So it really looks like it's going to be a 3-horse race for that last wild card spot in the NL. With 24, 25 games left. So, Rockies, Brewers, Cardinals, or Cubs, if the Brewers catch the Cubs in the division. Those are those teams in the NL you have to keep an eye on going down the stretch here. And then the AL wild card, the Yankees are back to a 3 game lead there as the top wild card. Minnesota is in the second wild card spot, tied with the Angels. Baltimore 1 out, Rangers a game and a half out, Rays, Mariners, and Royals all 2 out, and then you got Toronto at 7. They're out of it at this point, but a lot of teams still up there and in the game right now as far as that wild card spot. That's going to be an exciting race for that second wild card there. I would assume, I think most people think by now that the Yankees would get at least one of them, or whoever is not an AL East. Yankees or Red Sox get one of them, and then we'll see what gets the second one. But so, again, AL wildcard, NL wildcard, AL East, NL Central. Those are those races that you're going to be following here as you go in these final 3 or so weeks of the season. And, I mean, look, again, we said this last week. All you hope for is that you have meaningful games and big games, and as you go right down the stretch to the final week of the season. And it looks like so far that you're going to have that. That's all you can hope for. So as you go into September here, That's what you want, and that's what you're getting so far. So that's a good thing for the game. They needed that after the last couple of years where things kind of got a whole hump. All right, so that's the MLB stuff. I want to touch on this NBA story real quick because it might not seem like a big deal, but it is one. Today, Houston businessman Tillman Fertitta bought the Rockets for a record $2.2 billion. Now, what's the big deal about this? Well, the big deal is that, first of all, the Rockets were only valued at $1.65 billion. Okay, so they got a lot more than they probably would have expected, and this is a big deal because people, first of all, if this sale is approved, the Golden Nugget in Las Vegas will not be able to offer betting on Rockets games because Fertitta is the owner of a restaurant corporation and the Golden Nugget casinos and hotels. So will be illegal for him to get involved in that. Now, sorry about that. I got a little echo there. Now, also, a lot of people did not think that you would get this kind of money for an NBA team because it's not like the NFL or anything. They did. The other thing too is for somebody that owns a casino, restaurants is one thing, but casinos and casinos in particular, okay, to buy a team, be allowed to buy a team, and again, the betting aspect that I just mentioned, that's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big deal. And it's something that a lot of people kind of, their eyebrows kind of arched at. So it's a different kind of sale. Apparently he spent 71% of his net worth to buy them. It's a deal that can open some doors in terms of selling teams. It's a deal that kind of gives you a good feel about the NBA. It's a good sale, for buying NBA teams in the future. I think that, they got more than they probably would have asked. So, it might not seem like a big story, and it might seem like, well, geez, why is he mentioned? But for somebody like him to buy this team, owning casinos and the whole betting aspect, it's something that you don't see happen. It's something that many people are considered worrisome, but the fact they're letting it happen, it's a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big deal. So I just wanted to mention that because I thought it was something interesting worth bringing up. Now, I mentioned that we're not going to do like a full football preview because we don't have the time, and I mentioned that I wasn't going to go into full discussion on football stuff, and we're not. I'm gonna make some picks for week 1. As I mentioned, I'm gonna make some picks for week 1, and that'll be it. And again, we'll deal with the football. What's gonna happen with the football show and everything. I'll talk about that next week. But first, before I do some picks, it looks Ezekiel Elliott's 6-game ban has been upheld. Yeah, go figure. That's breaking news, but apparently he's okay to play Sunday against the Giants. And by the way, the ban was upheld by an arbitrator. So it's real interesting that they said that he can play Sunday, because if it's upheld, you usually start it immediately. I don't know if it's because it went into this week, but he catches a break because he gets to play Sunday against the Giants. So he catches that kind of break, but after that he'll be gone for 6 weeks. So the Ezekiel Elliott saga is finally come to an end. We have some resolution there. And you kind of felt like that was going to happen because no matter what they said, it didn't look like they were budging. So you have that story, and the Tampa Bay Bucks and Miami Dolphins will not be playing their game in Miami on Sunday. So we'll see. I don't know if they've announced. I heard that this afternoon. I don't know if they've announced where they're going to play.
The question to Ezekiel Elliott is, does he try to take it further on the course like Brady did?
He already did. He pretty much took it through the union, individual arbitrator, everything. This has been dragging out for a while. So, I'm having a conversation on the side, but Justin mentioned whether he can pursue further legal action. I don't think he can, because I think they did the players' union appeal, and then they did an individual arbitrator appeal. So I don't think there's any place else once he goes to another arbitrator. But then again, you're at this point, you just want to get it over with. So, yeah. And by the way, as far as the Miami-Tampa game goes, the game will be rescheduled for November 19th when both teams have a bye week. So there you go. There's your answer. And again, I got an ad in the background, so I apologize for that. So, yeah, so they'll play that game November 19th when they both have an off day. So both those teams will have byes in week 1, which is odd, but you got to do what you got to do. So, yeah, there you go. Now, again, for those that are not aware, the NFL season starts Thursday with Kansas City at New England, which is an odd game. Hi, Cat and Cat person. Anyway, all right, so we got Kansas City at New England. And again, that is an odd game to start. We usually have different, usually try to match up better, but Kansas City is not a bad team. So that will be the first game. And as I always do with these 6 picks, I try to pick the best games, okay? It's pick 6 challenge. That's what I always do. We used to do with Jeff Tech, but, so I usually pick the best 6 games on the board, and then sometimes if we have like a big week, like a holiday week or something, I pick multiple. I pick more than that. I pick maybe like supersize it, like 10 games or whatever. So I'm going to be very quick here. We don't know a lot about these teams yet, so I'm not going to go into full analytics about every game I'm going to pick. I'm just going to make the picks and then move on from there, and we'll talk along the way. So a big game, I'm obviously going to pick the opening game, Kansas City at New England. Easy for me to pick. It's New England at home. Week 1, momentum of being Super Bowl champion. They don't have Super Bowl hangovers. So I'm not, too worried about New England here. So I'm going to go with New England. So Pats over Chiefs. And I'm just typing my picks in so I can keep track of them. Pats over Chiefs in the opener on Thursday night. And I think it'll be a good game. Look, Kansas City's a good team. There's not the Patriots, okay? So Pats over the Chiefs. Now, looking for some good games in week 1 wasn't very easy, but there's a couple. I'm going to go to Baltimore at Cincinnati, division rivals, a 1 o'clock p.m. game on CBS. Of course, the Thursday opener is 8:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC. Baltimore at Cincinnati, division rivals. Baltimore with Joe Flacco and company all back in the mix. You like their chances here. Cincinnati, though, we know as far as regular seasons go, they can do some things as far as the regular season goes, but I have times when they have their issues. But even still, I expect a competitive game here. I like Baltimore over Cincinnati in that one. Another game on the board I like here, Arizona at Detroit. A 1 o'clock game on Fox from Detroit. Look, Arizona has been a consistent player the last couple of years. So has Detroit. Should be some good offense here. Matt Stafford with the big contract now. We'll see how he plays with that. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Even though they're in Detroit, both teams used to a dome, but even though they're in Detroit, I like Arizona here. I think Arizona's going to have a nice comeback year. So I like Arizona here over the Lions in that one. Now, let's see what else is on the board here. Oh yeah, okay. Philadelphia at Washington, a 1 o'clock p.m. game on Fox. Yeah, Philadelphia at Washington, 1 o'clock p.m. game on Fox. Philly surprised some people last year. They were better than they thought. I like Philly as a possible wild card contender. We'll see what Washington does. Washington could be in the same boat. Washington and Philly, I think, match up very, very well. I think this will be a good game. And a lot of people got off the Washington bandwagon last year. And, contract year for, I can't think of his name, good Lord. The quarterback of the Red Sox, I can't think of his name. Kirk Cousins. There you go. So we'll see how it does. I like Washington in this game, though. Even though I'm I don't want to be down on Philly. I think Philly could have a good year, but I like the Redskins at home in that game. So I'm going with the Redskins over the Eagles in that one. Now, 2 more games to pick, and I'm not going to pick any of the money in that game. I don't think they're that good. New Orleans at Minnesota, Rams at Chargers, I should say, playing their first time. They'll be the Los Angeles Chargers at Denver. I don't really like either one of those games. I just don't like the matchup. So the two other games I'm going to pick, I'm trying to pick good competitive games. Two games I'm going to pick are on Sunday, and they're the two best games of the weekend in my mind. Seattle at Green Bay, 4:25 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Good game. And it's one of those games where I think now the Packers sometimes get off to slow start, so you have to be careful with them. But I think they learned from last year. I think they're going to come out more momentum this year and get off to a better start. And Seattle, we know when they're not in Seattle, they don't play as well. And sometimes they're a different team. And I like the Packers over the Seahawks here. I think that it'll be a good game. I think the Seahawks will be better this year. Defensively, they're going to be themselves, but I think they're going to be much more improved as offensively this year. They fixed some of their issues. So, but I think this game being in Green Bay is the big thing. Seattle is one of those teams that they're just a different team away from their building. So Packers over Seahawks. And in the Sunday night game, which we now know Ezekiel Elliott can play in despite the 6-game ban, New York at Dallas, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, NBC. Big game. I have a lot of I really like the Giants this year. The Cowboys are going to feel emboldened with the whole Ezekiel Elliott thing, so they're going to be ready to play. It should be a good game. I like the Giants to eke out a win over the Cowboys. So Giants over Cowboys in what should be a classic game on Sunday night. So my picks for week 1, Pick 6 Challenge, NFL picks for week 1, Pats over Chiefs, Ravens over Bengals, Cards over Lions, Redskins over Eagles, Packers over Seahawks, and Giants over Cowboys. Those are your picks for week 1 of the NFL season. Again, I'll address what's going to happen with the NFL, with the football shows and stuff next week. And, I'll go over how I did with the picks and everything next week as well. So no worries on that. We will do an NFL preview and all that. Don't worry, it's coming. It'll happen. But I just want to give you all the picks and all that so that so I didn't screw you all over as far as our football fans. I didn't want to screw you all over. So I threw you a bone. That's what I wanted to do, and I did that. So there you go. All right, so that's all the sports stuff we got to do tonight. And let's get to wrestling so that we can, because there's quite a bit here. First of all, Raw and SmackDown. Raw last night was your typical Labor Day filler kind of show. There were some things. I watched it back. They ran the big spot with the Strowman Big Show match, which we all knew they were going to do. They built it up all night. Apparently, they once you heard it was a steel cage, they were going to run something. They had Braun win the match, which hey, Braun and Big Show had another good match, which is Big Show's got to love working with Braun because it gives him something meaningful to do. They ran the spot. Now, for those wondering, and I kind of suspected that they were going to write off Big Show with this match because they really don't have anything for him. Apparently, Big Show needs to have hip surgery. Not like The Undertaker, but like a surgery that's going to require him to be gone for a bit. So they chose to write him off with that angle they ran of him being thrown through the cage. So. And some people thought it might have been his last match. Remember, his contract is up next spring, I believe. So that this is his kind of last run, if you will. But I don't think that was his last match. But I do think that's the way they're going to write him out for a while. And it was, they good for show. He put somebody over, and it helps Braun's push here. So it was a good match. And you also had the Miz and Jeff Hardy, which was a decent match. And Miz getting a clean win, which was odd over Jeff Hardy, which I'm glad, don't get me wrong, but it was odd. I thought there'd be some shenanigans there. They continued to build up the tag team match. The Finn Bray Wyatt feud kept going a little bit. They went an interesting route with the Women's Championship by having it be a fatal four-way involving Emma, which I think pretty much gives you the idea that Nia Jax will win the title by pinning probably Emma. They just didn't want Alexa or Sasha to get pinned. That's why Emma's there. I don't believe for a second they thought about putting Emma in there for any other reason. The Emma Sasha Banks backstage thing looked a little personal, but we all know what's going on there. We know they don't really like each other, so I guess it makes sense. Cena Reigns had another war of words. It was good. Wasn't great. Wasn't as good as last week. I thought Roman did a better job. I thought it did its job for the most part. It was more designed to give Roman the edge more than it was last week, but, you know, still good. Cena had a good match with Jason Jordan. It was what it was, you know. So all in all, it wasn't okay. You know, it wasn't great. You know, they're kind of spinning their wheels. They've had too much time between pay-per-views, and it's a Labor Day Raw, so you can't do a whole lot. Now SmackDown, from what I saw, had a nice comeback week. The Owens Shane thing, first of all, I can't believe they went to where they went with the Shane stuff. That was wow. That was a hell of interesting start. The promo by both Owens and Shane, and they just, I mean, look, they needed a big match for Hell in a Cell. They got one. That they built that intensity up. That was a heck of a segment. And I don't know, I read that at the end of the show, Owens, I mean, basically Owens is threatening to sue WWE and the McMahon family, and Daniel Bryan said that Mr. McMahon will be on SmackDown next week. So they're really going all out with this angle, and it goes to show you how much they think of Kevin Owens that they're doing this angle. And believe it or not, they're thinking about making him a face after this angle, so go figure. But still, a very, very good building of the Kevin Owens, Shane McMahon stuff. So that was good. I guess they did some stuff with Carmella and Ellsworth, and I guess it was pretty mean what they had Carmella mention Ellsworth. I guess they're trying to move her past that a little bit. And apparently Nakamura and Orton had a great match, and no surprise, Nakamura beats Randy Orton. So they put him over Cena and Orton in the last 2 months, but he can't beat Jinder Mahal, which is interesting. But, you know. So, all in all, SmackDown, I haven't seen the whole thing, but looks like it was a good show. Now, before we get into some other stories and everything else, I want to throw to Mike and get his thoughts on any of the Raw SmackDown stuff that took place. Mike?
Huh?
I threw to you about Raw and SmackDown.
Oh my God, I thought you were still talking about football.
Nope, I moved on.
Oh my gosh.
Thank God, right?
Well, thank God. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't see all of Raw. So I watched it on clips. But what I saw, I enjoyed. All right, some of which I saw, I enjoyed. I guess we're gonna start. I'll start with the main event, which was a Big Show versus Braun Strowman. Cage match. Big Show needs some hip surgery, and Destiny 2 is coming out tomorrow. So Big Show is clearly going to be taking some time off.
Right.
And you know what? Big Show and Strowman didn't do an awful lot in this match, but it was still a spectacle to see. It was still really cool. They had another good match together. Strowman went over because Strowman's going to be wrestling Brock at No Mercy, and Big Show's going to be playing Destiny 2 for the next 2 months. And getting hip surgery, and still looking like a giant with abs, and playing Destiny 2 a lot for the next few months. He's going to be busy. So, yeah, Big Show kind of did the JOB, and they did that awesome cage spot afterwards. Good stuff. It was good stuff. I guess Nia Jax and Emma won a match, putting them in the
Fatal 4-Way.
Fatal 4-Way at No Mercy. Mercy for the women's title. Interesting. I didn't see the match, but make you go Also, the fact that I don't think we talk about the fact that Alexa Bliss won the title back last week, right?
Yeah.
Implying that Sasha was never supposed to win it at SummerSlam. Things that make you go Things that make you go Finn had a decent promo with Bray Wyatt. He's had a really good match with Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
Hardy got a clean win over Jeff Hardy. That's kind of surprising. Pre-show thing with Elias, and wow, that dude, he gets a monster heat. I guess he also gets a lot of cheers too.
Mm-hmm.
Like Elias is getting like nuclear reactions. It's amazing. So maybe we should think about pushing Elias a little bit. Maybe pushing Elias.
That'd be nice.
Would be very nice. Enzo had a match. He cheated, and meanwhile, Cedric Alexander and Grand Metalik looked impressive. Enzo cheated. Of course, there's rumors that Enzo already has heat on 205 Live.
He does.
He does. I didn't see why. We'll get into it.
We'll get into it.
But let's be clear here. Let's not pretend already have heat with the guys from 205 Live, because 205 Live are also part of the Raw and SmackDown locker rooms, so they also have to deal with Enzo on a regular basis.
Very true.
Let's ignore that part of logic. Shh. All right. The Shield and the Bar had some good development, I guess, and I guess the club's involved in it now. I'm not sure. It's all weird. I didn't really get to see it all, but I guess the big thing that happened was John Cena versus Jason Jordan. John Cena went out there, wrestled a good 20-minute match with Jason Jordan. Just about. It's about 15. Match. Jason Jordan looked good. Probably the best he's looked since he came over. All right. Roman Reigns comes out, and here's where the fireworks begin. Reigns, the conundrum. So, to me last week, were you lying to me last week when you said you weren't a fake-ass bitch? You either went 20 minutes with Jason Jordan because you lost a step, or you led him on and let him hope that you could think that he could win before you crushed him. Either way, John, good. And John Cena, of course, took options. He's like, Roman, you're thinking again. Don't think. And it kind of devolved in the fact, like, Cena's like, you know what? I'm going to teach you a lesson right now. And Roman Reigns, hard. He's like, all right, John, right now. Roman Reigns called out Cena's punk card. Be a lesson. Let's go right now. Cena didn't do anything. He didn't move, and then Roman's like, just what I thought, and walked away. Roman rebounded a little bit from last week's just verbal assault, and Cena got some licks on him too this time. But just impressive stuff. Like Roman's doing a little bit better this week, and didn't attack him. Going to get a little bit more next week. Interesting. It is the hottest program on Raw only because Brock Lesnar's not there every week.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, but to say it's the hottest program on WWE would be discounting the stuff on SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
I was only able to see one thing about what happened on SmackDown. One thing because we're doing this show. But it was the Shane McMahon and that was intense. It was very, very, very intense. Kevin Owens channeled a little bit of his Kevin Steen promos circa 2009, 2010 after Shane McMahon, like his name was Jim Cornette. And Shane McMahon, I mean, maybe a little too laid back because Kevin Owens kept hammering the points home and Shane McMahon really didn't have great defenses for them. So Kevin Owens, he believes what he says. He's like every good heel. It doesn't matter if he's wrong, but he's saying it with conviction. Ergo, he believes what he says. So you believe what he says. And to be fair, Kevin Owens is saying he was wrong because Baron Corbin actually did a good job refereeing in that match. I don't think that can be stressed enough. Baron Corbin was fine. It kind of made Shane McMahon's interference look kind of crappy. So kind of he says some things, says some inflammatory things, prods Shane McMahon into assaulting him, doesn't punch him back. Shane McMahon indefinitely suspended. Man, are we not going to have that Hell in a Cell match in October, huh? Wink, wink. First, Shane is going in the cell. This is already intense. And then I guess Daniel Bryan confronted him after, and I didn't see that. I saw a GIF, but I didn't see that part.
Do you know what happened?
No.
Basically, Owens is threatening to sue WWE and the McMahons, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Daniel Bryan told Kevin Owens that Vince is going to be there on SmackDown next week.
Interesting.
So they're going there. So I told you how much faith they have in Kevin Owens doing the McMahon angle with Kevin Owens next week. So that's good.
Well, if there's anybody in WWE does a really good job doing the kind of thing, it's Kevin Owens. He has experience in doing it as a heel. And Kevin and people are like, oh, there are only certain guys who can go, because they're when talking about John Cena and Roman Reigns, there are only certain guys who can kind of verbally spar with John Cena and not get lost. One of those guys that can verbally spar with John Cena and not get lost is now doing the McMahon program. So, SmackDown is must see next week because we're getting that, and I think they're going to transition Owens. And I think we're going to transition the world title program after that. And the only other thing that I know that happened on SmackDown, I know that Nakamura beat Orton.
Yeah.
Their match was outstanding. I heard Randy Orton was motivated.
Yeah.
Fought good enough when he's not motivated. But when Randy Orton's motivated to actually wrestle a match, he's one of the best in the world. And I heard he was motivated tonight.
I heard it was a really good match. People said it was better than the Cena match.
So Shinsuke Nakamura, I think you have to pull the trigger at Hell in a Cell.
Yeah,
You have to do it.
I agree. I mean, he's beating Cena and Orton clean.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have him waste this. He has to win the match. And especially Hell in a Cell, where you're going to be able to keep the Singh brothers out of the match to begin with.
I think it's time for Jinder Mahal's run to come from it. I don't even know if Jinder Mahal was on the show.
I didn't read anything about him. I'm assuming maybe he was on like commentary or something.
I'd imagine he was on the show.
I would hope so. He ain't Brock Lesnar. He should be on the show. But yeah, I mean, I didn't read anything about it. The Owens stuff was the one thing that was being talked about the most until the Orton Nakamura match came on. Then, but yeah,
you
know. But yes.
So I guess things I guess worth mentioning on SmackDown. I know. I think had like 2 matches or something.
Mm-hmm.
But everything on that show was overshadowed by Kevin Owens and Mahal, Nakamura, Orton.
Right.
And of course, Corey Graves. He's very happy to be working with Tom 6969 Phillips again. But of course.
Well, look, if they're going to fill a vacancy, Corey Graves is always a good choice. So.
And they were smart about it. So of course, Corey Graves had to be there for 205 Live anyway.
Well, I heard he's off.
Graves he's off 205 now. Of main event and 205. Because Graves was also on main event too.
Yeah.
So they moved Graves off of main event 205. They put him on Raw and SmackDown. They're moving
Nigel, I think.
They moved Nigel McGuinness. Yeah, Nigel McGuinness is now calling 205 and main event.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I figured they would do. There was rumors they might go with Renee Young for SmackDown, but she don't really want to do that, so.
Young squashed her own rumors by
Yeah,
saying, look, I tried it at NXT and I wasn't very good at it, so.
No, I always kind of assumed it was going to be Graves. Because I there was really nobody else. Booker's set on Raw too. They're not going to move him. They're not going to go back to Otunga. So, yeah, it made sense. I thought that's where they'd go. And again, that was one of the big news of the weekend was that JBL and this is a decision that he made before all this stuff with Mauro Ranallo and everything. This is a decision he made, I guess, almost a year ago, that he was gonna finish out and then just kind of go back to the way it was, where he did special events and stuff like that, and tribute to the troops and that, and then continue his charitable endeavors. And look, I kind of think he was burnt out. A lot of people said the travel was burning him out. I kind of think he was burnt out. I like JBL, but I think you could see in the last maybe 2 years that he wasn't as good as he usually was. It's just the way it was, So having Corey Graves take his spot, that's going to be just fine. So that was one of the big stories. Mike mentioned one of the other ones was that Enzo already has heat on 205 Live. No duh. These people, like he said, that's a good point. These people are in the Raw locker room anyway. You don't think that he's going to have heat with them already? I mean, all the issues that everybody else had, they're going to have with him. And if you haven't heard, he's apparently telling people how they should have their matches. They're doing too many flips in the ring. And a lot of them are taking offense to this because he's one of the worst guys in the ring, and he's giving them pointers on what to do in the ring. So it's a big mess with Enzo. It just doesn't get any better. Now, I want to mention something that I think is interesting, and I think Mike will find this interesting too. It's a very interesting story. And you could probably find out a couple of dirt sheets if you look for it. We've been talking a lot about heat on certain WWE superstars. One of those is Baron Corbin, correct? A lot of different things that have been mentioned about Baron Corbin. From, social media issues to, John Cena didn't think he was ready. What was the reason for why, the push got derailed? And, well, apparently word has gotten out about another incident involving Baron Corbin that took place in early August. Now, I want you all to stay with me on this because this is a story that involves a lot of details, so this is important. Apparently, Corbin picked up heat after an incident at a talent meeting during the first week of August. Dr. Joseph Maroon had been brought in to talk with the roster about the importance of concussion-related injuries and why talents should immediately report injuries to WWE officials. During the meeting, Dr. Maroon reportedly brought up a recent study on deceased NFL players who had been diagnosed with chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is CTE, post-mortem. The way Maroon talked about the study reportedly downplayed it as being solid proof that anyone who played football would then develop CTE. Baron Corbin, who's played college football before and had a brief NFL career from 2009 to 2011, I guess apparently interrupted Dr. Maroon and expressed an opinion that challenged the doctor. Multiple sources noted that Corbin argued that there would always be some form of head trauma as football helmets are constantly cracking against each other during every play. He also mentioned how he is part of a concussion-related lawsuit against the NFL and that he knew Maroon was against CTE. Corbin was apparently referring to how Maroon was portrayed in the 2015 concussion movie starring Will Smith. And because of this, Maroon stated during the meeting that his depiction in that movie was incorrect. This is the first time. This would not be the first time that Maroon was forced to address this depiction in that movie. He did agree with Corbin that CTE was a problem, but he was trying to make the point that the study did not mean 99% of NFL players had CTE, noting that people have to put things into proper perspective. Corbin and Maroon ended up going back and forth for several minutes as Corbin disagreed with Maroon's opinion. The incident between Corbin and Maroon was described as awkward and led to eventually awkward laughter. It was also noted this was not a case of Corbin being belligerent or yelling at him, but a situation where he was expressing his opinions at the wrong time and the wrong place. There was a feeling among one source that Corbin would have been better off pulling Maroon to the side for a private discussion after the meeting so it would not take away from the matter at hand. There was also a feeling that Corbin hurt the flow of the meeting and took away from the importance of talent health by making the discussion about previous comments Maroon has made on the NFL, which put him into a defensive position instead of educating. Apparently, a few talents were impressed that Corbin spoke out. There was no confirmation on this incident forcing officials to put the brakes on Corbin's push, but the feeling amongst people backstage is that this could have led to a delayed push, especially since it looks like they're keeping Corbin in and around the main event scene with AJ Styles. And this comes from PW Insider, and it's been picked up by a number of other sources as well. So, Mike, what do you think about that?
Two schools of thought, I guess, in Baron Corbin here. If of everybody on the roster, I guess Baron Corbin and I suppose Roman Reigns too would have the most experienced the pro football stuff and the CTE. I mean, Roman Reigns didn't have as long of a career as Corbin did in the NFL. So I guess Baron Corbin did have an opportunity to speak his mind. However, if Dr. Maroon's in there to kind of educate the roster about concussions and CTE, there's a time and a place to talk about it, and it might be after the meeting. Because a lot of teachers or educators come and say, hey, I'm welcome after the meeting for you to come and speak to me. So maybe Baron Corbin should have probably waited until after.
Yeah.
As I'm sure Dr. Maroon probably would have been glad to handle the debates. It's not like what Baron Corbin said was wrong. It's a lot of helmet-to-helmet contact. It is part of the game, but it's a very controversial part of the game. It does lead to concussions. And Maroon is right. If you think you're injured, you think you have a concussion, you should talk to medical staff. Although Chris Amon, a lot of controversy and scrutiny right now. But you should, bless you, talk to your doctor in case of a concussion. So he's right. Should Baron Corbin get heat for it? Well, maybe to some level, I guess he should get heat for it. I mean, because he interfered and kind of derailed training. A major training that was expensive for the company to put on. Could he have waited until after? Yes, and probably should have been the time when he did it. I don't blame Baron Corbin for speaking up because Baron Corbin brought up an interesting counterpoint. But should it have? I mean, but unfortunately, despite the best intentions, you get heat for the smallest thing.
Yeah.
You get heat for the smallest thing, like trying to tell better wrestlers how they should wrestle their matches and funding a mobile clinic for Syria.
Yeah.
Match.
Yeah. So
from Lana stuff to humanitarian things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, look, I think you hit the nail on the head here. I think that the timing of it is the part that you mentioned. This was an educational session. It was a training. You know, it's not the place for a debate. I mean, I understand that you might have issues with the the person that's doing. I get that, all that, but you know that again, that's not the place for that. It's an information thing, okay? you know, you want to talk about with some guys on the side after the fact, or you want to talk about with Dr. Maroon after the fact, and that's fine. So I do understand why that would set a bad, and some people were apparently impressed with him doing it, which is, I mean, look, anybody speaking up backstage always gets impressive. I mean, if it's for the right reasons, gets impressive accolades for a lot of guys. But you know, in that situation, I don't think that's not the situation that you want to try to get accolades with your guys in the back. Okay, that's a situation where you stand there, you listen, and you leave it alone. And if there's a Q&A later, and then after everything's done, maybe that's a point where you bring it up, maybe a dissenting opinion. But even then, you do take away from what they've tried to do with the session. So to me, again, you mentioned it. Go on the side. You know, if you want to talk to, you know, some of the other guys in the back, do it after the fact. If you want to debate it, do it after the fact. I mean, he would have, like you said, him and Roman Reigns above anybody else probably would have a lot of information to bring into it. So it's not like you should keep that to yourself. It's just that there's a time and a place for everything, and that was not the place to do it. And it's not a place to kind of, I won't say showboat, but kind of, you know, get on a soapbox and be like, hey, you know what? Look, guys, see, I'm speaking up. You know, that's not a place to do that. You know, you can do that, and it's not the right idea in that moment, and given the circumstances. So, yeah, I mean, it's you know, that would explain something. I think it's I think we're finding with the Baron Corbin thing, it's a combination of things. I think we're finding that it's a number of things that led to it. I don't think it was any one thing, but I wanted to bring that up. A couple of other things from SmackDown of interest. AJ Styles granted a title shot to Ty Dillinger before the show. So I guess next week on SmackDown in Vegas, AJ will face Ty Dillinger for the U.S. title. I guess Baron Corbin Go ahead.
No,
I guess
go ahead.
Baron Corbin beat Ty Dillinger after a cheap shot tonight. So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So.
Yeah, I'm glad though that should be a good match. I mean, AJ Styles probably isn't going to lose, but
yeah, at least they're doing something with him.
I want to see something more with Ty Dillinger. So. Yeah.
And also the Usos have picked their stipulation for the rematch of the New Day. It will be a street fight next Tuesday on SmackDown, which will also feature Naomi's rematch with Natalya for the Women's Championship. And Bobby Roode was not on SmackDown tonight. He was in a pre-show dark match where he defeated Mike Kanellis.
Strange. Bobby Roode's been one of the hottest things in the show, but
well, they had a lot of things on the show. I guess maybe they just, you know, weird though that you didn't find time for Bobby Roode. But yeah, so that was a couple of the other things as far as SmackDown goes tonight. So, all right. We got through everything. We are done for the night. As always, the show might be over. Does not mean you have to stop interacting and contributing to our show. Continue to have your voice heard. Send us your feedback, your questions about the show, scheduling the show, topic ideas, breaking news items, related to sports, entertainment, or wrestling you want us to cover, your general feedback, reactions, comments, or opinions on things we talked about on the show, things we said. Any of these things you can do by email, Facebook, and Twitter. You can email us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Please remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411 for any single tweet regarding our show. And of course, you can find us on Facebook. To search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and then make sure that you like our fan page once you're on it or once you find it. We encourage you to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest information about the show, especially when it comes to scheduling. If last-minute postponements or delays happen, that's where we post the information first. Obviously, if something happens in advance that we know about, we'll let you know. But when it comes to last-minute stuff, that's where they get the information. And, of course, we post random stuff on our social media feeds as well. So make sure you follow us on Facebook and Twitter so that you can have access to all that and more. Just search In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook and Twitter and follow us, and you can have access to all that and interact with us and so much more. If you'd like to keep up on current episodes or look back at past episodes, you can do that in two ways. You can either stream us anytime you want on Google Plus and YouTube. Just search In the Spotlight 411. And once you do, you'll be on our show page. You'll be taken to our show pages on both sites. We have access to every episode we've ever produced for Google Plus and YouTube. That's every episode from mid-October 2015 all the way up into tonight's current most recent episode. Those episodes are available for you to stream anytime you wish. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Google Plus and YouTube, and you can stream those episodes. If you're maybe you don't like seeing us on screen, maybe you're more of a fan of us, listening to us on the go, or, just listening to us in general. Maybe you're interested in older episodes of the show. If any of that applies to you, check us out on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes. To search for In the Spotlight 411 on both those sites. And when you do, you'll be taken to our show pages on both sites, where you will find every episode we've ever produced in the nearly 7 years we've been doing the show. So it's everything for our original Blog Talk Radio run from October 2010 to January 2011, everything for our Talk Show run from January 2011 all the way up into mid-October of 2015, and all of our Google Plus and YouTube episodes from mid-October 2015 all the way up into tonight's current most recent episode. All those episodes transfer into audio format for your convenience. Every episode we've ever done, in order from most recent date to the oldest, available on both those sites. Anytime you want to access them, you can listen to them on the go, listen to them anytime. Maybe missed a part of an episode, missed an entire episode. I look back at an episode from 4 or 5 years ago. Maybe you're a longtime fan and wants to do it, or a new fan and wants to look back at an episode like that for the first time. Check out some of our old stuff. If any of that applies to you, you can do any of that on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes. Again, just search for In the Spotlight 411 on both those sites. So Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes. Always keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes on Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes. Always keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes anytime you wish. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on all those sites. Going to search for In the Spotlight 411 on all of those sites. I want to thank Mike for being here tonight. Thank you, Mike.
Time for bed.
Thank myself for another great show. Pat myself on the back. Thank all of you for your continued support and contributions to the show. Thank you so much for watching. To those who will be watching, listening to this later, thank you to you as well. That is, again, not it for this week, because we are back to our normal schedule. There will be another show, and it'll be a big one. The 7th Annual In the Spotlight TV Awards this coming Thursday, which is September the 7th at 9 o'clock from Houston time here on YouTube Live. Obviously, we'll start off, as we always do, by announcing the live award nominees. And then you have an hour to vote on those as we begin to announce the winners for the 7th Annual In the Spotlight TV Awards. So, big show on Thursday. You do not want to miss it. Next week, we'll make some announcements in regards to the show, address the whole football situation as well. And, of course, next Thursday, we'll do our summer box office wrap-up as well, too. So, big week next week. But this Thursday, of course, one of our bigger shows of the year, so you want to make sure you tune in for that. So that is it for tonight. I hope you all have a great rest of your night, a great Wednesday, and a great Thursday. We will see you back here again Thursday night for the 7th Annual In the Spotlight TV Awards at 9 o'clock from Eastern Time here on YouTube Live. Until then, everybody stay safe and have a good night.